So some plants are just completely irresistible, and one group of these, they truly take your breath away, and we're delighted that right now in South Africa we have a grower that produces the most pristine quality of this group, which is the Fynbos type plants, the Proteas, the cone bushes, that we can use in our gardens. And man, are they gorgeous. So a lot of people say, ooh, but they're finicky, they're really hard to grow. No, they're not. They're not. And we're gonna go through a couple that I've got today because, of course, when I saw them, I just had to have them. And this one over here, so these are the cone bushes, and you can see exactly why. Part of the Protea family, okay? You can see there they get, so they're more grown for their foliage. It's more about the foliage rather than a flower, like your typical Protea has a large, big flower, you know, the emblem one. So this is more about the foliage. And let me tell you, folks, in terms of bang for your buck, of beauty in the garden, they're spectacular because in 2 seasons they give you really different colors. So you're finding in the autumn months that these bracts go deep red, and this little guy is actually called Red Devil. Well, look at that, Red Devil. So in autumn it's beautifully red, and then as we're coming into late winter, early spring, we tend to find that it gets this lovely cream. So as fillers for the vase, as a large plant in the back of the garden beds, takes 2 years to mature to get to its actual height, which will be about 1.5 meters. They take kindly to pruning, which is why they're such a good cut flower. So the more that you prune, the more you're encouraging those little 2 shoots. So wherever you've pruned off, you're going to get 2 shoots emerging. But a fantastic plant, really tough. And as a general rule, when I talk about these over here are the Geraldton Waxes, and this is an Erika. Now when you're planting any of these, including the Proteas, folks, no compost inside the planting hole. So you can use a bit of acid compost, but that's it, a bit of acid compost, but no bone meal, no superphosphate. And the only time you would actually use anything around them is in terms of a mulch. So a good mulch of acid compost or some bark chips, that is all that you're going to need. But please, when planting, acid compost, and that is it. Please, it's really important because this group of plants hates any phosphates. You use phosphates, Bob's your uncle, they're a goner. Off to plant heaven. Okay, so let's talk quickly about these guys over here. These are Chamaeculiums, often known as, the common name is the Geraldton Wax, and there it is. Man, so the Geraldton Wax plants endemically, so endemic means that's where it originally comes from a part of Australia between Perth and a place called Geraldton, and that's where it gets its name. Endemic, the only place in the world where these plants are found growing naturally. They've now been hybridized, and we have the most beautiful colors available to us. When you smell and crush its foliage, oh, there's a fresh lemony fragrance, and that's because this family of plants is the Myrtaceae, so the myrtle family. What do we know is in the myrtle family? Well, that's the tea tree. The tea tree that we use for health and medicinal purposes, as well as 5-spice or the allspice. That is where it comes from, same family. So you get that beautiful fresh lemony fragrance. Folks, they're very easy to care for. When planting, same rules apply. Generously pick blooms, because the Geraldton Wax is known, and that's why it became so popular, is simply because it lasts so long in the vase. It can last for weeks and weeks and weeks, and as you're cutting the flowers, so of course you're giving the plant a good prune. The other important thing about it is that in the first 6 months to a year, with all of these varieties, please do not let them dry out. Once they are established, they are incredibly drought tolerant and will be able to cope with low temperatures down to -2. But it's very important that initially you don't let them dry out, but in the same token, they don't like waterlogged soils. So if you've got a very heavy clay soil, please guys, important to dig the hole, put a bit of pebble underneath it, bit of coarse material so that it can drain well. But this is a winner. Oh, and the other thing about it is birds, butterflies, pollinators just love it, and it's got the most intense fragrance, the flowers that is, because they just ooze it. So a really good plant, although it's not indigenous, folks. For me it would kind of like slide in the under the radar, even in one of those gardens. And then we've got the Ericas, the beautiful little Ericas with the Fynbos, with their dainty little bell-shaped flowers. Look very gentle, look very tender, but my, are they tough little guys. As well, they've got that fragrance. There it is, that buchu-like fragrance. Very tough plants. This is a little guy called Fairy Bells. Nice dwarf, compact, good for containers, good for the edge of garden beds. So whether it's something tall you need, short, little stout, or something right in the front of a garden bed, there's one of these for your garden.